Good afternoon, YouTubers. How you doing today? I am in the middle of preparing myself some lunch, but I decided to abstain from that so that I could make this video because it's a very important topic that I wish to discuss with you. I've noticed looking outside there, people are still wearing their masks. There's all kind of uncertainty around. COVID-19 is still purportedly in full throttle, and we've got all that to deal with and all the protesting and politics. All that stuff that just makes you so depressed. Well, this topic of discussion for this video may kind of fall into some of those categories. I don't know. It all depends on you, I suppose. But I get asked this question a lot as a practicing Catholic. Mark, why do you believe in purgatory, and what is your biblical support for that? Okay, I get asked this question a lot. That's a full throttle question. I can't answer in just one video. I'm going to make a series of videos. So you need to bear with me because I want to explain this in the most candid terms so that you can understand it. It's quite a unique concept, and it's a lengthy one. The concept of purgatory didn't happen overnight. Contrary to popular opinion, neither did the concept of heaven and hell. If you are a practicing Christian, did you ever ask yourself where these concepts come from and how they came to be? Well, it turns out that the earliest Christians had very different beliefs than we did. Early Christianity, I'm talking the first 4 centuries, was very diverse. There wasn't a group of one solid body of Christian men and women who believed in the same things. It was all together very different. Very many different beliefs were circulated throughout the Holy Land. But this one in particular, purgatory, it has its foundings that are quite ancient, but they're sort of miscategorized. So I'm going to try and put all those pieces together for you and present it in a manner that you can understand. I don't think for this video right now it's prudent for me to discuss where I think the belief itself came from. I would rather ask a more accurate question is, when did these beliefs actually come into the existence of Christian thought? That in itself, I think, is a more fascinating topic, and I'm going to deal with that right now in this video. So I talk with a lot of people, a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds. I talk to my Protestant brothers and sisters. I have a lot of good friends who are Protestants. I have friends who are Muslims. I have friends who are Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, Jews, Buddhists, and even Hindus. I have, over the years in my life, I have, acquainted myself with a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds and a lot of different religious backgrounds. It turns out this idea of saying prayers for the dead just doesn't exist in the Christian religion. It does exist in a little bit of the Jewish religion, but it also exists in ancient Buddhist tradition as well, which I found fascinating. I didn't know that until a fellow Buddhist colleague of mine explained that to me. Maybe I'll say that for another time. But the earliest attestation we have of this concept actually comes from the 3rd century. And it's by a Roman martyr whose name was Perpetua. She was a female. She was martyred for her Christian faith. I'm going to get into more detail in the next video about her story, but for right now, I'm just going to briefly explain it to you. It's quite a fascinating story, not because of what she talks about, but because of the concepts that she mentions. Because the things that she talks about and the topics of her discussion predate the concept of purgatory, and it's quite fascinating, and I want to share that with you a little bit. So to get into the story of Perpetua, she was a young Roman living in the Roman Empire who converted to Christianity. We really don't know how, but she became a disciple of the Christian faith, and she got in trouble for it and got arrested and thrown into prison. She began to have terrible experiences in prison. She was tortured, she was raped, she was brutalized. I mean, name it, it just happened. And if you know anything about Roman prisons, they were not very nice places. Now, according to what is written down in her account, and it is believed by some scholars, but not all, that she actually wrote this herself. Now, if that is the case, that she wrote this herself, that's fascinating in itself, because this is the first account we have of a woman writing about Christianity. That's pretty significant. And I think that is something that needs to be discussed. And she's convinced somehow she has been convinced that if she continues to pray for her brother, his suffering in this after place will end. So she continues to pray and to pray. One night she falls asleep in the prison, and she has a dream of her brother again, only this time he's clothed in his white gown, brighter than the sun. It doesn't hurt to look at it. He is surrounded by glorious light, trees, birds, blue skies, beauty that unlike she has ever seen in her own lifetime. And he stands in front of a bowl that has water in it, and he's able to drink from it. And he drinks to his heart's content. And the amazing thing is about this is no matter how much he drinks, the bowl of water doesn't lower itself. It stays at the same water level. She is convinced because of her prayers that what had happened was God had taken him out of that place of punishment, or atonement, if you will, and brought him into existence with God himself. That is what she convinces herself of, and that is what she believes. So those basic ideas of purgatory are in there. You just have to look for them if you read the story carefully. It would appear to me, from that interpretation of the story, my own opinion of this is that purgatory is not so much a physical existence, but rather a condition in which a soul who has not committed enough sin to sentence him to eternal damnation, but has committed sins in the sense that if he atones for them in this state of existence where it's morbid, dank, and dark, and people pray for him enough, he will come to the light and God will accept him into his kingdom. Now, the question that I have for everybody is this. I'm going to end the video on this. Okay? Do you think that small little concept from Perpetua's dreams influenced our early Christian writers and Christian fathers to present the indoctrination, if you want to call it that? That's a little bit maybe controversial because some of my fellow Roman Catholics don't want to hear that, but that maybe that influenced them to perceive that a state of purgatory actually existed? Well, in the Second Council of Lyon, which took place in 1272, that's when the Catholic Church finally established the doctrine of purgatory. But that's not till almost 1,300 years later. Then, of course, when Dante writes his Divine Comedy, he presents hell and purgatory and heaven pretty much in the modern conceptions in which we have them now. I would argue that the early Christians, the earliest Christians, the first Christians after Pentecost, right there in Jerusalem, didn't have a concept of purgatory. They may have had an idea, because those kind of ideas about praying for the dead was around even in ancient Jewish times, but not in level in which we have it now. And purgatory was not certainly a physical place. Those developments came later, and I'll explain why in the next video. Have a great week.